I'm Raymond Brinkerhoff. This is part of the Brinkerhoff Ranch. This part of it is Tinny Creek. We call the different pastures. Right here we're in the lower meadow pastures. You can see the fence up there, that's the upper meadow. Kind of an overview of our operation. We run a cow-calf operation, roughly 150 mother cows. We have a horse program as well. These are our brood mares that we use just for colts and use on the ranch. In the last, I'd say 20 years, we've been actively working with NRCS, trying to improve our place as far as grazing and the sediment control that we've been working on. We've done a lot of upland treatments and wildlife-friendly fences, water projects, and we're just trying to improve our calf crop, weaning weights. Originally, this was a sheep operation. Back in the day, my great-grandpa, they would live here in the summer and they'd winter on the Arizona Strip with their sheep. Since then, we've converted to cow-calf. My grandfather, when he took over, he sold the sheep and converted to cattle. He said that was the best day of his life. It's been a good operation and it's been going, like I said, I'm the 4th generation. Roughly 2000-ish, we realized, well, a lot of it was my dad and my uncle both had other jobs, so this was kind of the part-time job. Not a lot of work was being done out here. Everything was run down. Grandpa was proactive, had a lot of stuff going, but then since then it kind of fell to the wayside. 2000 we came in, those guys retired. We started doing what we could, but it was very limited. We didn't have a lot of the means or equipment to come out, and we didn't know exactly what to be doing. Since then, we've learned with a lot of the technical and financial assistance from EQIP and CSP. Before that, we probably had, I think there was 4 pastures, and that was for the entire ranch out here. That was including the private, BLM, state. Now, I think we have 15 pastures, and we have a deferred grazing, and we try to rest at least 2 pastures a year. In a nutshell, our weaning weights, I remember as a kid, if we were selling 450-pound calves, we were pretty grateful. Now we just sold, and our target's 650, 680 pound in the fall off our mother cows. So I think our weaning weights have, obviously done really good. Our conception rate, our open cows are less. I remember as a kid, we used to always have open cows. Now we've pretty well weeded that out. We still have some, but I think with all the work we've done, all the grazing, all the upland treatments, we're able to target a healthier cattle herd. This is part of the Alton CWMU. One of our goals we have here is trying to make everything wildlife friendly. We target the wildlife friendly fences, wildlife friendly waters. All of our water troughs have the escape ladders. Anything we can do to improve the range for wildlife to encourage them here, that's our main goal. This is our storage tanks on the north end of our Mill Creek pipeline. It was a EQIP project that we started. We implemented the project early this summer, and it consisted of 9 miles of pipe, which was ripped in, 12 troughs like you're seeing here, the 12-foot rubber water troughs, and 3 storage tanks and a well. So it was a pretty big undertaking. It's going to enable us to use a lot of places that we weren't able to use before. These troughs and other troughs that weren't put in on this pipeline, as part of our CSP, we've come in and installed escape ladders in all of our water troughs. And the other part we have done is to make them wildlife friendly. We've tried not to put any bars around them. It's bat friendly water is essentially what we're going for. So we try not to have any obstruction above so the bats can come in and swoop and drink and go. This is the Carroll pasture. We We came in here, and as you can see, we've seeded this. This year, it fell into our rotation to defer it due to our CSP obligation. We deferred the spring and early summer grazing off of this till after nesting and spawning season. We'll come in and graze it probably in late November. So this is the middle structure of our erosion control structures. We put 3 of them in the Tenney Creek drainage. Above this, we had some ponds put in probably in the 60s, and it's held it from there up. This was a problem. It continued to erode, get deeper. The wash was getting wider. So we come in and installed these in probably 2014. If you look above here, the sediment's pretty well filled into the top of the structure, and these were 12-foot structures, so it's collected a lot of sediment.
One of the things that I really appreciate about CSP is it gives us as NRCS employees an opportunity to find the people who are already doing conservation without our help. So there are some people out there that are taking the initiative and doing it on their own, and CSP gives us an avenue to kind of step in and help those people and reward them a little bit for the work, the conservation work that they're already doing. The Brinkerhoffs, they started doing conservation work before they started working with NRCS, and then they recognized the need for more resources and more technical assistance, and that's when they came to us. We started with EQIP, and then we moved into doing CSP. What's your experience with working with NRCS and CSP been?
It's been a good experience working with NRCS. They've been helpful. Lots of technical support. It's always fun because they know what's worked on other people's ranches, and they bring it here. We don't have to go do trial and error. The technical support, I would say, has been probably the most help that we've got out of the EQIP and CSP. And honestly, I think CSP is a good tool to ensure that most producers continue on with it. We come in and do EQIP projects, but a lot of times the CSP is what continues to ensure those projects are protected. We come in and do the seeding, but CSP a lot of times follows up with the grazing management, and they continue to watch and make sure that we're taking care of the investment on the EQIP projects.
So the Brinkerhoffs have been really involved in doing a lot of wildlife habitat improvements, and one of the results that we've seen is that they've done a lot of sage grouse habitat improvements. They operate near the southernmost sage grouse lek in Utah, so they've done habitat improvements that have helped with the goal of keeping the sage grouse from being listed. So the CSP process is a little bit different as far as the application process is for EQIP. How do you feel like it went applying for CSP versus applying for EQIP?
I would say real similar. One thing I did like about the CSP is we did have options. So we would go through and we would pick the practice that we wanted. We could narrow it down to what I felt like we needed to improve on. And a lot of it was our actual note-taking. I know we all know what we do is good, but we don't have the documentation to prove it. And so one of our CSP practices was to move our supplements. So each year I would sit down with Christy and we would go over maps. We would change our supplement location, and in doing so, I feel like we utilized our whole pasture. We weren't going back out and putting the salt and the supplements in the same place that Dad always did, which we were doing that before. And now we're able to utilize the whole pasture.
So as far as the application process, one of the big differences between applying for CSP and applying for EQIP is the requirements that are put on the producer. So the producer is required to go in to FSA, make sure that all their farm records are up to date, make sure everything that they operate is included, and they are supposed to bring NRCS a copy of maps to show their operation, each tract, and what the land use on each tract is.
Looking back at some of the old pictures that we had, my father, my grandfather, I feel like since that time, we have increased probably 10 times fold, and I mean increased as far as healthy rangelands, keeping the soil on the site, wildlife friendly practices. The next 50 years, I wish we could say we would improve it 10 times more, but I don't think there's room for it. I think we're getting pretty close to the potential for the site. We're hitting our ESDs pretty close. One of the goals and targets we're going to continue with is the invasive, the noxious weeds, trying to control those, keep them out of here, hopefully eradicate them, and continue on with striving to get our perennial grasses, targeting the native species, and continue just to improve upon that. I think CSP pretty much wraps it up. Conservation, stewardship. I think we all consider ourselves stewards of the land. You talk about a rancher and just barely we talked about the next 50 years. Well, I hope my kids have an opportunity to come out here and make a living on this just as I have. And to do so, I think we have to be good stewards. We have to continue on with these good practices to ensure that we have the grass, the soil, everything's intact here, that we keep our sites at ESD, and that will enable them to continue on with a profitable ranch.